So all of the fellows said, now, who's going to be the president? And they said, well, it's Ted's idea. You know, after all these years, I've had time to think about a lot of games and a lot of opponents. People always ask me about the greatest players I ever faced. That's one question, a familiar one, the kind people expect an answer to. But the players I truly admired belonged to a very different conversation altogether. This isn't about who had the prettiest game. It isn't about smooth skating, clever hands, or numbers that look good on paper. And it's not about who I like the most. This is about the players who forced my respect, the ones who made me adjust, the ones who made me dig deeper than I planned to just to stay in control of my own game. Those were the players who stayed with you, the ones who made you think long after the night was over, replaying moments in your head, asking yourself how to take space away from someone who never seemed rushed. Admiration like that isn't emotional. It's earned under pressure. It's survival. When another man can stand in front of you and refuse to move, refuse to break, refuse to give you the game on your terms. 5 names stand out when I look back, not because they were alike, not because they challenged me the same way, but because each of them demanded respect in his own way. Let me tell you about them. And let me start with someone people might not expect. I was born in Kirkland Lake, Ontario, a mining town where you learned early how to endure pressure. I broke into the NHL as a left winger with the Detroit Red Wings and spent the core of my career there, playing in an era when space was earned, not given. I wasn't defined by finesse or size, but by how close I played to the game's hardest areas. Every shift was about presence, positioning, and forcing reactions. That foundation shaped how I saw hockey and how I came to admire the men who could stand their ground against it. Number 5, Doug Harvey. Doug Harvey was one of the first men who taught me that admiration does not come from noise or force. It comes from control. Playing against him never felt dramatic. There were no wild collisions, no moments that looked chaotic from the stands, and that was exactly the problem. When Harvey was on the ice, the game stopped behaving the way you expected it to. As a winger, I lived on timing. I read gaps. I attacked space before it closed. Against most defensemen, pressure worked. You leaned, you pushed, you rushed their decisions. With Harvey, none of that mattered. He didn't retreat in panic, and he didn't step forward recklessly. He waited, and waiting in hockey is a form of dominance. What I admired about him was how little energy he wasted. He didn't chase me. He didn't try to intimidate me. He simply erased options. You could feel it during a shift. The lane you planned to use was gone. The second option felt slower than it should have. By the time you adjusted, the puck was already moving the other way. That kind of pressure doesn't hit your body first. It hits your instincts. Harvey forced me to think earlier than I wanted to. He made me question whether driving inside was worth the cost. Not because he would punish me physically, but because he would turn one bad decision into a clean breakout the other way. That is a different kind of respect. It's the respect that comes from knowing you can't bully someone into mistakes. There were nights when I left the ice frustrated without being hit once. That stayed with me, because in my world, pressure was supposed to create cracks. With Harvey, pressure only sharpened his game. He stayed balanced, he stayed patient, and he made me understand that control could be heavier than contact. I admired him because he never gave me what I wanted. He never reacted the way I tried to force him to react. He dictated the rhythm without raising his voice or his elbows. That kind of defense changes how you see the game. It teaches you that strength isn't always loud and authority doesn't always need confrontation. Doug Harvey was not a man you overpowered. He was a man you had to outthink. And when you couldn't, you learned respect the hard way. Number 4, Red Kelly. Red Kelly was a very different kind of test for me. Where Doug Harvey controlled the game with patience and angles, Kelly challenged you with intelligence and authority. Playing against him never felt rushed, but it always felt monitored. Every move you made seemed to be expected before you committed to it. What I admired about Kelly was how calm he stayed under pressure. He didn't chase hits, and he didn't bite on emotion. As a winger, I relied on forcing reactions. I wanted defensemen to step out of position, to lean too early, to open something I could attack. Kelly refused to give me that satisfaction. He stayed upright, he stayed balanced, and most importantly, he stayed one move ahead. There were shifts where I felt as if the ice itself was being guided away from me, not because Kelly blocked every path, but because he guided play into spaces that worked in his favor. You could feel it happening in real time. The lane you wanted wasn't closed violently, it was simply no longer available. That kind of pressure doesn't bruise your body, it wears on your mind. Kelly forced me to respect discipline. He showed me that control didn't need force to be effective. You could lean into him, test his strength, try to provoke a reaction, and he would give you nothing. No panic, no mistake, just clean positioning and a quiet confidence that the play would break his way. What made him admirable was his refusal to play on my terms. Many players let the game speed up when pressure arrived. Kelly slowed it down. He made you uncomfortable, not by being aggressive, but by being correct. Every choice he made felt calculated. And when you realized that, you understood. You weren't just battling a man, you were battling his understanding of the game. There were moments when I had energy, momentum, and space on my side, and it still wasn't enough. Kelly didn't need to knock me off the puck to win the exchange. He only needed to be where I was going before I got there. That is a rare quality, and it forces admiration whether you want to give it or not. I respected Red Kelly because he never broke his structure, he never gave me a crack to exploit, and in a league where pressure usually exposed weakness, he turned pressure into an advantage. That taught me something important. True authority in hockey doesn't shout. It stands quietly in the right place and waits for you to make the wrong move. That kind of player earns admiration the hard way. Number 3, Jean Béliveau. Jean Béliveau challenged me in a way that felt almost unfair, not because he relied on force and not because he rushed the game. He did the opposite. He carried himself with a calm that refused to be shaken. Playing against him, you never felt chaos. You felt control, and that control made everything harder. What I admired about Béliveau was how little he revealed. As a winger, you look for signs. You watch posture, hands, eyes. You wait for a defender or a center to show impatience so you can attack it. Béliveau didn't give you that. He moved with balance, never leaning too far in any direction. He didn't hurry plays. He absorbed pressure and let it pass through him without changing his shape. There were shifts where I tried to impose myself physically to speed the game up, to force a reaction. Béliveau didn't resist me. He didn't push back emotionally. He simply stayed in position and let the game come to him. That kind of composure is suffocating. You feel as if the ice is shrinking, not because you're being closed off, but because nothing you try creates urgency on the other side. Admiration grows when pressure fails. Béliveau made pressure feel irrelevant. You could lean on him, test him along the boards, challenge his space, and he would still make the right decision. The puck moved cleanly. The play stayed structured. And suddenly you realize you weren't dictating anything. You were reacting. What separated him was his sense of timing. He didn't beat you with speed. He beat you by arriving exactly when he needed to, late enough to stay patient, early enough to take away your option. That forces a different kind of respect. You start questioning your instincts. You hesitate where you usually attack, and that hesitation costs you. There were moments when I had momentum on my side and still felt behind the play. Béliveau made you understand that strength isn't only physical, it's mental. It's the ability to remain unchanged when the game tries to pull you out of yourself. That is rare, and it demands admiration whether you want to give it or not. I respected Jean Béliveau because he never bent to the game I tried to impose. He stayed within his own rhythm and forced everyone else to adapt to it. In a league built on pressure, he showed that true authority could be quiet, measured, and relentless in its calm. That kind of player stays with you long after the game ends. Number 2, Terry Sawchuk. Terry Sawchuk forced a kind of admiration that came before the puck ever left my stick. Playing against him didn't feel like attacking a net. It felt like stepping into a problem that refused to simplify. You could carry speed, angle your approach perfectly, and still sense that the answer wouldn't come easily. What I admired about Sawchuk was how early he took control of a play. Long before a shot was released, he had already made decisions for you. His stance, his depth, the way he sealed space without overcommitting. He didn't wait to react. He anticipated. And anticipation from a goalie changes everything. You stop thinking about where you want to shoot and start worrying about where you're allowed to shoot. There were nights when I tried to impose my game the way I always did. Drive inside, close the gap, force contact and chaos. Sawchuk didn't panic when things got crowded. He didn't retreat into the crease and hope. He held his ground. He stayed patient. And that patience turned pressure back on you. Suddenly the play slowed in your mind while your body was still moving fast. That's when mistakes happen. Admiration grows when your instincts fail you. Sawchuk made instincts feel unreliable. You could release a shot that felt clean and still know the moment it left your stick that he had read it, not guessed, read. That kind of certainty from a goalie weighs on you. It follows you from shift to shift. You start adjusting earlier than you want to. You hesitate, and hesitation is a gift to a man like him. What separated Sawchuk was his refusal to give shooters comfort. He didn't rely on acrobatics. He relied on discipline, on angles that erased corners, on rebound control that killed second chances. As someone who lived around the crease, that mattered. You realized quickly that effort alone wouldn't beat him. You needed clarity, and clarity was hard to find when he was locked in. I respected him because he never made things easy, even when he made them look simple. He turned pressure into structure and chaos into order. That's rare, and it forces admiration whether you want to give it or not. When a goalie can make you question your best habits, he earns something deeper than praise. He earns your attention every time you cross the blue line. Terry Sawchuk did that to me. And once that kind of respect is established, it never really leaves you. Number 1, Maurice Richard. Maurice Richard was the standard everything else had to answer to. Playing against him never felt optional. It felt unavoidable. From the moment he stepped on the ice, the game tilted toward him not because he demanded it, but because his presence forced it. What I admired about Richard was how completely he refused to be managed. You could prepare for him, you could assign bodies to him, you could promise yourself discipline, and still the pressure found you. He didn't need an opening to announce himself. He created one by sheer will. When he accelerated the ice, didn't open politely, it broke. Pressure against Richard wasn't theoretical. It was immediate. Defensemen couldn't stand tall because he attacked straight lines. Goalies couldn't wait because waiting meant he was already past you. Even when you stayed with him physically, you felt behind the play mentally. He made you react first, and once you reacted, you were already losing ground. What separated him was his refusal to slow down for anyone. Many great players adjust their pace to control the game. Richard did the opposite. He forced the game to keep up with him. That created a kind of admiration rooted in inevitability. You weren't trying to stop him forever. You were trying to survive the next shift, the next rush. The next moment when he decided it was time to move, I respected him because pressure never changed him. When the game got tight, he didn't become cautious, he became sharper. When the crowd grew restless, he didn't fade into structure, he exploded through it. That takes something rare. It takes conviction so strong that doubt never enters the equation. There were nights when you felt prepared and still felt exposed. Not because you played poorly, but because Richard refused to play within limits you could control. He didn't need help from chaos. He created his own order through aggression and purpose. That's the kind of player who teaches you what admiration really means. Admiration in that sense isn't comfort. It's acceptance. Acceptance that another man can impose his will without asking permission. Richard did that every time he touched the ice. He didn't negotiate with pressure. He used it. If you respected Maurice Richard, it was because you had no choice. He made the game heavier, faster, and more honest than you wanted it to be. And when a player does that consistently across seasons and rivalries, he earns something beyond praise. He earns a place at the very top of your respect. That is why, when I think about admiration, his name comes last, because he left no argument behind. When I look back at those 5 names, I don't think in terms of rankings or memories softened by time. I think about moments when the game stopped feeling comfortable. Moments when pressure stripped everything down to instinct and truth. That is where admiration was decided. Each of those players forced me to change something. My timing, my angles, my patience. They didn't earn respect because they were flashy or easy to appreciate. They earned it because pressure didn't move them, it revealed them. And what it revealed was strength I couldn't ignore. Admiration like that isn't emotional. It isn't friendly. It's earned in silence, in small adjustments, in the realization that your usual answers are no longer enough. Hockey decides that for you, not opinion, not history. The ice tells you who deserves respect. That's why these names stayed with me. They made the game honest, they made it heavier, and they reminded me that true admiration isn't given, it's forced. In the end, that's what I respected most. Players who didn't bend when the game demanded it, players who turned pressure into identity. That is the highest form of admiration hockey can offer.